My name is Douglas Grummons, and this is the continued reading of the book 10,000 Waves, Chapter 3. So we'll pick up where we left off at the end of Chapter 2 and move forward with the next chapter. And this chapter is entitled My First Taste of Honey. The backdrop is Houston, Texas and Galveston, Texas, back in 1995, I want to say. Anyway, my first taste of honey. The text goes, "It was a rough summer with a long dry spell. No waves for about a month and a half in the Gulf of Mexico. And I was wishing for waves, but summers can be very flat in Texas. I was starting to get a little stir crazy, and in those days we did not have surf reports, but I felt I had to go surfing. I got this crazy idea to drive to Florida, hoping to score some waves. And at that time I owned a Volkswagen Golf. And I threw my board in it, and I drove straight to Fort Walton Beach. It's an 11-hour drive to get there. I pulled up to the pier, and the water was flat. Surf starved, I told myself to keep driving on to the East Coast. The closest East Coast beach was Jacksonville Beach. I've never driven all the way across Florida before, so I had no idea how long it would be or how long it would take me. I think it was at least another 7 hours of driving when I finally reached Jack's Beach, as the locals called it. And it was 3 o'clock in the morning, and I did not want to waste the money on a hotel room for a couple hours of sleep, so I drove around into an oceanfront subdivision, and I found a place to park, but I couldn't sleep in the car after such a long drive. So I pulled out my board bag, and I pulled my board out of it and walked up to the beach. And up on a dune, I climbed inside the board bag, and I fell asleep. When I woke up at about 9 o'clock in the next morning, I opened my eyes, and there were about 15 people surrounding me, giving me dirty looks, and I looked at them standing with my 5 feet, within 5 feet of me, and I quickly apologized and stated that I didn't know this was a private beach. One by one, they walked away, looking over their shoulders to see if I was leaving or not. When I looked at the beach, the waves were pumping 3 to 4 feet. Filled with anticipation, I pulled up into a parking lot back in town. I whipped out my board and asked some locals where the best place to surf was, and one young lady responded, "Just pick a spot, they're all good." I surfed with one other guy that I met on the beach, and his name was Matt. And Matt was from Massachusetts. And we surfed for hours together and then went to the shore. We sat down in the sand and started talking about surfing in Massachusetts, where he shared with me how good the waves were where he surfs at and how cold the water was. And I had told Matt that I used to live in Virginia and I know all about the cold waves. Matt told me that he had just wanted to surf some warm water waves, so he drove all the way down straight from Massachusetts, just as I drove all the way from Texas. I told him all about Texas surf. I told Matt about the ship channel at Surfside Beach. Whenever a really big storm or hurricane pulls into the Gulf of Mexico, the ship channel goes off. Outside the ship channel it's victory at sea, but in the ship channel I've seen the very outside entrance break at 20 feet. The cool thing is that you can walk on top of the jetty for about almost 3/4 of a mile and jump off any spot you want off the rocks and catch a wave. And the wave is about 3/4 of a mile long. After you ride one all the way to the shore, you just walk out and walk back down the jetty and jump in and catch another one. I knew how cold the waves were on the East Coast. I took a trip from Virginia Beach all the way to Texas when I was moving back to Texas, and stopped in North Carolina and found out how cold the water was down there about mid-February, mid-January. It's freezing cold water. But anyway, Texas water gets cold enough to put on a wetsuit and hoodie and gloves around mid-January. Then it starts warming up again in mid-March. And I told Matt the waves are not as powerful as the East Coast waves, but what we do get, we get plenty of. Matt asked me what else I did besides surf in Texas, and I told him that I studied Aikido, and I also like to meditate. I told Matt how much my life had changed since I began meditating, and I have so much more awareness in and out of the water. And when I ride a wave, the whole thing slows down, like a slow-motion replay. When I first started surfing, I was very self-centered. It was always my wave. I loved sharing waves, but it was always about me. And after my divine experience on the mountaintop in Breckenridge, I started giving God his chance to ride the waves. In the beginning, I surfed about three hours before I remembered, oh yeah, God, it's your turn. And God responded to me, "Thanks a lot. Your arms are all rubber and you can hardly stand up." Matt laughed when I told him all this, and then he told me about his girlfriend who was into something called Tantra. And I asked him about Tantra. I said, um, and he told me that she bought a book with all these sexual postures in it. Matt and I ate lunch on the beach together, and and then we grabbed our boards and surfed the rest of the afternoon. I had to head back to Houston the next day because the drive was going to be very long. And when I got back to Houston, I stopped by Leo's house, and Leo told me about my trip and the friend I had made in Florida. And in case I didn't mention it before, Leo was a little Chinese fellow that studied Aikido with me in Houston. And curious about Tantra, I asked Leo if he knew anything about the subject. Leo responded, "Yes, I have read a book about Tantra." And I said, "Did it have a lot of sexual postures in it?" I asked. He goes, "Not one," Leo said. "I thought Tantra was all about sexual positions and stuff." And Leo told me, "Sex is just a small part of what Tantra is." "Please, Leo, I'm curious. What is this all about then?" And Leo said, You being a surfer might relate to this. The Tantra attitude is to stop swimming upstream against the current. Tantra says to stop wasting your energy and just let yourself float to the ocean. "Float to the ocean," I said. "Could you give me an example of what you mean?" And Leo responded, "Yes, Doug. See, Tantra does not separate bad from good. To the Tantrika, a person who practices Tantra, every situation can be used to transform energy, even sex energy. Most religions condemn sex. They think of sex as something dirty. But to the Tantrika, sex is just the first rung of the ladder towards love and then on to prayer. The Tantrika does not condemn sex because it is the first rung of the ladder. The first rung helps you get to the second, which is love. And then the second one gets you up to the third rung, which is prayer or compassion towards the divine. All of life is born out of sex energy. It should not be condemned. Look at all the beautiful songs, paintings, poems that were born out of sexual energy. Another way the Tantrika looks at life is to be like a bee. Collect pollen from all the beautiful things in life, or you could say all the beautiful experiences in life, and then transform that pollen into honey. A Tantrika will be attracted to a person just as a bee is attracted to a flower. The Tantrika will have a love affair with that person, and when that love dies, he or she will move on to the next flower. The Tantrika will always stay with love. He will spend his or her whole life's energy in love and offer that love to the divine. So it is kind of like when I surf a wave, I squeeze as much energy as I can out of that wave and then paddle out and wait for the next wave. The ocean gives me energy or stoke from every wave I ride, even when my arms feel like they are about to fall off and I don't think I could possibly paddle into another wave. When I see a good wave coming, I give my last amount of energy and make the wave. And then I pull off the wave and I'm filled with stoke again. And I tell myself one more. I give the ocean all my energy, and she gives me all her love. So Leo, correct me if I'm wrong. Tantra seems like a love devotional approach, and Zen seems to be more of a meditative approach. Leo responded, "Yes, Zen is what you call a negative approach, and Tantra is a positive approach. It's positive in the way that Tantra accepts you just as you are. Sex energy is already your base metal, and tales of turning iron into gold are metaphors for the alchemy of Tantra. Lust is the base metal, and union with the divine is the gold." Leo responded to me, "Doug, all religions have a degree of devotion. To the Tantrika, devotion looks like indulgence, but it is transcendence. To the Christian, devotion is praying and fasting. To the Buddhist, devotion is prayer and meditating. To the sports fan, devotion is wearing his team's jersey and attending games, so there are many forms of devotion. When we talk about tantric devotion towards the divine, the deeper the devotion, the sweeter the path. Tantra is not simple indulgence or repression. From the repressed, it looks like indulgence, and from the indulger, it looks like repression. Tantra is indulgence with awareness. This is different from simple indulgence. The awareness brings consciousness into your being. And when you bring consciousness in, the base metal heats up and starts to transform itself. The Tantrika starts to listen to his body and the body will speak to him. The Tantrika also has different form of dieting. He does not believe in fasting, but instead eats well and stops when his stomach says to stop eating. He eats with awareness, thanking God for every bite, and eating very slowly so he can savor the entire flavor of everything he eats. It is different from indulging. A quality of godliness is factored into the experience. The Christian believes that he is committing a sin when he overindulges with food, and he prays for forgiveness, and he goes on a fast to attempt to stabilize his weight and health. And he is like a spring coiled up tight, and when he is repressive, and then when he indulges, the spring goes out to the opposite end, constantly shifting between the two extremes with no awareness of his actions. One minute he is a sinner, and then the next minute he is a saint. And the Tantrika does not make a distinction between the sinner and the saint, because he is neither. He is a transcender. I told Leo that when I was a young teenager, I used to go to a friend's house to ride the skateboard half pipe. My favorite album in that I listened to back then was AC/DC's Back in Black. Back in those days, I was a devout Christian, and my Christian elders kept telling me that this was the devil's music. And this created a great deal of confusion in me, because I felt a slight guilt, like I was committing a sin. My Christian lifestyle made me feel like I was on a teeter-totter. This made me feel very unbalanced, and I was constantly shifting from repression to what I thought was indulgence. Leo then stated that, Leo, when I skated to the music I enjoyed so much, was this indulgence or was this sin? And Leo told me that it was conditioning. Many people have told us what is good and what is bad in our lives without ever using our own awareness. He asked me, "How did the music affect you in the way you skated?" And I told him it helped me to skate and it helped me to push my limits, and he helped me to wake up so that I could get into my groove. When you say groove, what do you mean by that? Does it help you to focus more into the present moment? And I said yes. I never looked at it like that, but yes, it did. The music was very groovy. Leo was a Buddhist, and Tantra stems from Buddhism. Actually, there are two types of Tantra. There's Hinduist Tantra, and then there's Buddhist Tantra. And Leo asked me if I had ever seen the Town & Country surfing logo. And I said yes. The logo was very cool. And he said to me the logo is a Taoist symbol. The white section with the black dot represents good actions, and the black section with the white dot represents bad actions. The dot illustrates the principle that there is a little good and bad, and the white dot indicated that there's a little bit of bad in the good. And skating to your music may look bad from the outside, but inside, it helped you to excel to higher states of consciousness and better performance. When people look at our actions, the same action that looks bad or evil from one side could have a very good and positive effect that they may not be able to see. The thing to do is to step back and become aware of all your actions. The Tao has the same outlook as Tantra, and that is that it accepts you as a whole without breaking down your actions into subdivisions of good and evil. And looking at it like this, Buddha's way of meditation is like having a dam built of stones blocking the water from reaching the ocean. And each time you meditate, you take away one stone, and a little more water flows through. And that's why you feel a little more awareness every time you meditate. Another stone is removed and you feel better and you feel less stressed. The more unaware you are, the more stones you have in your dam. The tantric approach or the love approach mirrors the same water and dam approach, only with love. It is like water. It is so powerful that it bursts down all the rocks of the dam at one time. Meditation was discovered through having sex, and when a person has an orgasm, he is taken out of his mind for a split second. Sexual energy is already in us. Our cells are full of sexual energy. And Tantra says that start with what you already have in you. And I asked Leo, what happens when you combine both the positive and the negative approaches? And Leo responded, it would probably confuse some people. Others are too lazy or even to follow one path, much less two. And it seems to me that you should use everything that you can for your spiritual growth. As one of my first martial artist instructors told me, use what works for you. And I have applied this philosophy to every aspect of my life. Shouldn't the same apply for my spiritual growth? Leo responded, then he told me that everyone's path is different. Just as we are all individuals, so is each person's spiritual path an individual journey. What might work for one person may not work for someone else. Doug, I think you started your journey the right way. First, you planted your seed in deep, fertile soil. You learned to meditate, and you learned to appreciate the gifts of God has given you right here. And in that appreciation, you gave yourself to the divine. A lot of seekers do not see that the spiritual journey starts with a solid foundation of love and appreciation on which to build. People start meditating first without making a connection with the earth. Your surfing and your snowboarding grounded you with the love and courage to live 100% in the present moment. And when you added meditation to your spirituality, a miracle happened. The seed disappeared and the tree started its journey toward the surface of the earth with the trust that one day it would see the sun's rays. Funny, Leo, I did not know I was a seed. Leo said, every person is born just a seed, and all seeds believe that they are already full-grown trees. They believe that they are because inside of the seed is a very beautiful tree waiting to flower. Then how do I know when I'm not a seed? When you accept yourself and let go of the past, when you let go of all knowledge and accept that you don't know, those are the first signs that the seed is disappearing. Every seed has some anxiety, some tension. Even if the seed is not aware of these tensions are there because every seed wants to grow into a beautiful flowering plant. So, Leo, how do I start bringing Tantra into my life and try to uncondition my past beliefs? First, Doug, there is no other way to uncondition what you have already been taught, and other than bringing in awareness into your actions and emotions. You start with the simple things. First, if you feel love, close your eyes and go within to where the source is. If you feel anger, express your anger, but go inside and watch where this anger comes from. Express your anger, but do it in a confined space where no one can hear you, and let it all out. Just be aware and watch yourself. Also, Doug, never take your anger out on any other living being. Stomp up and down, scream, beat the carpet or a pillow, but never take it out on another living being. At first, it may seem hard. Sometimes the anger may be overdue to your conditioning. Just as the spring that was coiled up tightly suddenly released, it will take time for the spring to come back to its natural state. The spring's natural state is not coiled tight or pulled to its opposite extreme. It is just in the middle. Have patience, trust existence, and let things happen naturally. Do not try to be for or against. Be totally neutral, just in the middle. Slowly, this awareness coupled with meditation will develop sensitivity within your five senses. And you will feel more. You will start to hear a subtle voice within and start listening and trusting that voice. And I asked Leo, is that voice my conscience? No, Doug. Conscience is embedded by society to help you choose right and what may seem wrong in a given situation. Consciousness is your ability to see within awareness and how any situation will help you grow. Leo, I feel like these discussions have already helped me to grow. And as the weeks passed, I brought Tantra into my life. I was working with the energies and not making any distinction between right and wrong. And then one day came and something happened in my personal life that enraged me with anger. At first it overtook me, and then I remembered Leo's words and went inside myself. I focused on controlling my breathing, and then I looked at where this anger was coming from. And as I looked within deeper and deeper, I let the anger take its course. I did not want to bottle it up inside of me. I went into an empty room and grabbed a pillow and let out all that anger, only this time with awareness. Then the most beautiful thing happened. My anger turned into compassion. And that's when I found out that anger, not judged by me, was a seed of compassion. This was a total transformation in my life. I found every negative emotion, including jealousy and hate, that could be transformed into its higher state, into a higher positive energy. Tantra gave me balance. It made me feel whole. I stopped fighting with myself and accepted that everything has a purpose and a place in my life. I love the phrase out of a beautiful song from one of my favorite artists. The band is called and the song is called Beyond Love. And it goes something like this: move away from the window and into the light. There are some things in this life that you just can't fight. It is as if the spirits above have cast a little spell upon us. It's as if heaven above is beckoning us. So let us take off our crosses and lay them in a tin, and let our weakness become virtue instead of sin. Our bodies stand naked as the day they were born, and trembled like animals before a coming storm. Take me beyond love, up to something above. And back to the text. And there are some things in this life that you just can't fight. Stop going against the current and just flow to the ocean. This can require great amounts of trust. And if you have been taught how to float, you know it takes very little energy, and you know that you can float in water. Then you can float spiritually. Let our weakness become virtue instead of sin. I was listening and loving this song long before I knew what Tantra was. I took off my cross, and when it came to my emotions, meaning I did not repress them anymore, when it came to my actions, I applied Zen. When it came to my understanding or thankfulness, I prayed. The end of the song Beyond Love is beautiful too. It goes, beyond the grasp of lust, beyond the need for trust, beyond the gaze of the sick and the lame, beyond the stretch of human pain. And back to the text. Beyond the grasp of lust is love, and love transforms into compassion, then into prayer, then into the last rung of the ladder, which is union with the divine, or call it God, or my favorite word is existence. Beyond the need for trust, because once you know you are cradled by existence, then the need drops. Beyond the gaze of the sick and the lame. And these are the people who have bottled up their emotions on the surface, and they seem normal, happy people, but inside they are volcanoes waiting to erupt. Beyond the stretch of human pain. Pain can be transformed into godliness. It just takes the courage to face it. A year had passed since I met Leo, and I kept studying Aikido, but Leo lost interest and it took a lot of dedication to keep studying at our dojo. 1 out of 30 people who started did not last the first year. Leo and I kept in touch, but I missed his presence in the school. Anyway, that's the end of chapter 3. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I stuttered a little bit trying to get through it. Anyway, thank you again for joining me. My name is Douglas Grummons, and this is chapter 3 of the book 10,000 Waves, my first book.